to the Radical Godly Stewardship Podcast. This is episode 71. Now, I believe I'm live. I am not sure. Yeah. Okay, listen, y'all. Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm using a new thing here, and so I might be a little awkward today, but it's all good. Welcome to episode 71. Today we are talking about the setup. That's right, the setup, and why this economy is more fragile than it actually looks. Right. So make sure you get your notebooks, your pens, your papers, all that kind of stuff, and do know that this is a podcast where heaven's economy collides with Earth's assignments. I am your host, Dr. Lexi Johnson, your financial rebel, your kingdom disruptor, and your accountability coach into obedience. Because around here, we don't beg God for money. We align, we obey, we produce, we multiply, and we dominate. And so, if you're ready to steward well, think boldly, and build kingdom wealth, then we are going to dive right in just after our intro. All righty. So I think y'all heard the intro instead of seeing it, but like I said, I'm trying to test stuff out, and I'm the kind of person that's just like I'm gonna get on and go before I have things perfect. So, anywho, let me ask you something, okay? Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how confusing the economy feels right now? Because on one hand, the stock market is strong, right? The headlines sound optimistic. Last week we talked about headlines. People are still spending, right? But on the other hand, your groceries are still very high. Your bills are still very high. And for many people, it still feels tight, right? Now, that's not in your head, okay? It is feeling that way because what we're in right now is what I call a setup. Okay. It's not a collapse, it's not a crisis, but we are in a fragile economic environment that looks stronger than it actually is. And if you don't understand this, then you might misread the moment that you're in. Okay. So today, we're going to break down why the economy looks strong on the surface. We're going to talk about what pressure is building underneath. We're going to talk about the key signals that most people are missing and how kingdom citizens respond with strategy and not confusion. Okay. But first, it's time for our stewardship check in. All right. And as we're prepping to do that, hey, let me know who you are, where you're watching from. Be sure to share this broadcast out. Okay. And let's dig into our stewardship check in. All right. So, number one, I want you to pause and ask yourself, am I interpreting the economy based on headlines or my actual financial reality? Am I interpreting the economy based on headlines or my actual financial reality? Because the two are not the same. Okay. They are absolutely not the same. All right, second question. Have I adjusted my strategy or am I assuming that things are going to get better? You know how we do. We tend to kick the can down the road and just say, you know what? It'll be better next month, or, next month when I get this paycheck or when I get that money or whatever, it'll get better, right? Some Many times we find out that things don't actually get better, and for some of us, there we may dig ourselves into a deeper hole, right? So we have to learn how to adjust our strategy, because assuming that things are going to get better can be very costly. Okay. And question number 3 to ask yourself: if pressure increases over the next 3 to 6 months, are you prepared? Not hopeful, not making assumptions, but actually prepared, right? Um, Proverbs 22, verse 3 says that the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. All right. So this is a discernment moment. Okay. This is a discernment moment. Now, let's talk about the illusion, why things look strong. Okay. Let's talk about why things look strong. All right. So, number one, the market is up. Okay. Stocks are performing really well right now. Big companies are reporting strong earnings, and that creates the perception that the economy is doing fine. Okay. One of the things that allows for the stock market to do well is war and conflict, believe it or not. Okay. So there are some industries, many industries that are doing really well right now because of that. Okay. And then obviously there are other, companies that are just doing what they do and they're doing well right now. So here's the truth though: the stock market is not the economy. Okay. Many of us, when we hear about the stock market and it being up, we think that it means that the economy in general is doing well too. The two are not the same thing, right? The stock market is not the economy. What the stock market reflects are how large corporations, I'm sorry, what the stock market does is it reflects large corporations, right? And how they're doing. It reflects investor sentiment. What do I mean by that? How investors are feeling right now. Investors are pretty confident right now, right? It reflects cash flow, but it does not represent or reflect everyday households like yours, like mine. It does not reflect small business strain, and it does not reflect personal financial pressure. All right. Now, spending, let's talk about spending. Spending hasn't collapsed. People are still spending. People are traveling. People are shopping. People are living life. And you might be one of them, right? But what's not being talked about um, is that a lot of the spending is being supported by credit, savings drawdown, right? And that simply means that people are using their savings, but they are not replenishing it. And it is also, the spending is also people facing delayed financial consequences, right? They have put things off and put things off, and they can no longer continue to put things off. All right. All right. Now, if you all see me keep looking down, I'm looking down because I'm, wanting to make sure that if anyone puts anything in the comments, that I will be able to see it. Okay. All right. So we cannot be fooled. All right. So let's talk about what's really happening underneath. Let's talk about what's building under the surface. Now, energy pressure is rising yet again. Okay. With global tensions, energy costs are creeping back up, and energy affects everything. It affects transportation, it affects food distribution, it affects manufacturing, it affects your utilities. This is not just like a gas price issue, the gas that you go and you put in your vehicles. It's bigger than that. It is a system wide cost driver, okay? Because everybody almost everybody in some form, shape, or fashion, every company is using energy to some degree, maybe using oil to some degree. Okay. So those costs are creeping back up again. Now, the food cost pressure is coming again. Okay. And I think last week when I was on, I talked about how I may have been having, not may, I had been having conversations with some people, family and people in general, and how people were hoping, oh, gas prices would come down, and how people were thinking, oh, well, if the groceries are starting to come down, maybe things are going to get better. But the food cost pressure is coming again, okay? Because here's what most people don't see: rising fertilizer and supply chain pressure. Okay. So, what does that mean? That means that future food prices are being set right now. So, even if things feel high, there is potential for continued pressure ahead. Okay. These are things that we don't really think about. These are things that are not talked about in the headlines, right? Who would be thinking about fertilizer, right? And what that has to do with our food costs, right? No one is actually thinking about that on a day-to-day basis unless that is something that you interact with all the time, right? Like farmers and things like that. Unless you have some direct dealings with that on a day-to-day basis, you're not even thinking about that. But as kingdom citizens, we have to be wise and discerning about all of these things. Okay, let's talk about the economic growth um, that is slowing quietly, right? Because the headlines are talking about stock market is up, right? They're talking about all of the positive things, but there is a slowing that is going down quietly. They're not being very dramatic about it at all. It's going and it's moving steadily, right? And what we're finding is that businesses during this time are being more cautious. They are slowly hiring still, okay? I remember sharing with you all, I think it was on this platform some time ago, wasn't recent, that I had friends who were looking for work, some who were actively looking for work, and it was taking them months to find something. 3 months, 6 months. I even had a friend who said it took them a year to find work, right? So that's not going anywhere. That is not changing. Slow hiring is still the case and will be the case. Businesses are also watching their expenses. Okay. And that's not expansion energy, right? If a um, if a company was thinking about expansion, none of these things that I just mentioned would they be talking about. Okay. None of these things. What they are doing is a defensive positioning. That's what they're doing, a defensive positioning. Okay. So, another thing that's going on is that consumers, so we talked about the businesses, let's talk about consumers. Okay. Those of us out there who are buying things, right? Debt levels are high if you are using debt. And I have been constantly saying that this is not a time to like go get yourself in more debt. That this is actually the time where you need to be aggressively getting your debt down, right? So the debt levels are high. Savings have been drawn down for many households, right? Because they're just trying to find ways to cope with the high prices of food, high prices of gas and other types of energy, utilities, right? You're wondering why your utility companies, their the billing keeps going up. It's these sort of things, right? And because these things are going up, now households are having to rely on credit cards, they're having to rely on savings, um, and people are also maintaining lifestyles. They're not making the necessary adjustments, okay? So they are maintaining these lifestyles with less margin, okay? That means simply that they are not replacing what they are taking out of their savings. Okay, they are not consistently contributing to savings, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they get in a pickle or in a bind, they tend to, want to take from the wrong areas. So, saving, of course, that's what it's there for, right? Rainy days, hard times, all of that. But you somehow still have to be trying to replenish that, right? Like some people would just, um, just stop contributing to their savings altogether. And it's like, no, it, you have to bring it down, but you don't want to stop contributing altogether, right? So with all of this, it's not stability, right? It is pressure that people are trying to manage. And the way that it's being managed, like eventually you're going to hit a wall, right? Eventually, um, everything is going to blow. Okay. So another thing is that interest rates are still high. And this is very key because with high interest rates, it makes borrowing expensive. It reduces business expansion. Okay. Again, for the businesses, they're not looking to go get no loans right now because the interest rates are high, right? There's a slowdown of large purchases for both businesses and um, households, right? And so all of this keeps pressure on households as well. And right now, there is no clear immediate relief. Okay, I want to be clear about that. So if you are the person that has been kicking the can down the road, like it'll be better in a couple months, there are no signs of that. Okay, there are no signs of that. And so you have to make the necessary adjustments. We'll talk about that in a moment. So, what this all adds up to: strong markets, ongoing spending, but also rising costs, slowing growth, high debt, tight credit, high interest rates, right? And that combination equals a fragile economy. All right. So, as kingdom citizens, what are we supposed to be doing? Right? Let's bring this into alignment. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 26 and 27, Yahusha talks about the house that is built on the sand. Okay. It looked fine until pressure came, right? Now, you may be noticing households that are going through that right now. Maybe it's your household. Everything looked fine on the outside. But when the pressure came, right, that sand, right, that house started to collapse because the sand was is not a strong foundation, right? And so that's what this season is revealing. Some financial lives are built on debt, assumptions, appearances, sand, okay? Others are built on discipline, strategy, stewardship, the rock, okay? Because that's how that parable goes. A house is built on sand, and then a house that's built on rock, okay? So pressure doesn't create the problem, though. The problem was already there. What pressure does is it exposes, okay? It exposes. So there's danger in misreading this moment, okay? And here's where people get it wrong. What they see is that, oh, things aren't bad because the headlines are saying the stock market is up, yada, 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 right? So they keep overspending, they keep delaying adjustments, they ignore the warning signs, and then when the pressure increases, they're caught off guard. All right. So here's how we respond wisely. And we're going to bring this home. Okay. Reduce your exposure. Okay. Reduce your exposure. Now, how do you do that? Number one, get rid of any unnecessary debt. Aggressively pay that debt down. Okay. Number two, well, we're still under reducing your exposure. Okay. So get rid of unnecessary debt. Lower fixed expenses. You'll be like, well, how do I lower fixed expenses if they're fixed? Right? there aren't too many things that are truly fixed. Okay. So there are some things like our telecommunications bill. That would be your cell phone, your cable, if you have that, streaming, all of that. Look at those things, right? We tend to There's some of us who are still of the mindset that I'm going to be loyal to this particular company, Verizon, AT&T, um, T-Mobile, whoever, right? I'm just going to be loyal. I don't really feel like changing or this, that, or the other, but your pockets are paying for it, right? Because you are not shopping around, right? Another fixed expense that people don't shop around is their auto insurance. You should be shopping that around every 6 months, right? To see where you can save, right? So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Even like your pet insurance. Lots of people have pet insurance. Pet insurance can be expensive, right? You might want to shop that around, right? So look at some of your fixed expenses and see how you can reduce them. And also reduce your financial obligations. You have subscriptions likely that you're paying for that you don't really use or you don't really need, right? Every quarter, I sit down and I go over my subscriptions, right? Because, we might see, oh, I get to watch a free movie on this streaming channel or whatever. Let me sign up. And then you don't cancel, right? And so now they're charging you from month to month. You may forget about it, right? Or you haven't forgotten about it, but it's so nominal, you think that it's not affecting anything, right? But it is, right? It is. Over time, that nominal amount grows, and you could have done some amazing other things with that money, right? So reduce your financial obligations. Okay. That's your bills overall. This is really not a season to go out and create more bills. Okay. If you can eliminate some bills, this would be the season for it so that you can give yourself some flexibility. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing that we need to do is to build margin, and you need to build margin right now. Okay. Do not wait until the pressure increases even more. So, what should you be building? You should be building your savings. All right. And that might mean maybe I don't do as much traveling as I did last year or the year before. Right. Um, maybe I scale that back just for a little while. Right. Maybe I'm not going out to eat as much. Maybe I am not just, hanging out with the girls, every month, right? Where can you scale back and contribute to your savings, right? You've got to give yourself some breathing room, especially in an economy like this, right? You have you've got to build stability, or solvency is the word that I would use for it. Okay. All right. Now, you also want to increase your income capacity. You don't need to panic, right? You just need options. And this is where I'm telling people, and the Bible even says in Ecclesiastes that we should have 7 streams of income, even 8. Okay. So the world will say 7. The Bible says 8 streams of income, right? And oftentimes when we think about, um, and I'm going to say not so much the younger people, maybe some of them, but I know my generation. When you think about getting a second job, you're always thinking about going out and, getting another part-time job where you got to show up every day and all of that. And there are many ways, many options now where you can make extra income, where you can determine the hours that you work, right? And you don't have to go consistently show up at some place, clock in at some place, right? So there's a lot of options out there right now for that. So increase your income capacity. All right. Um, the other thing is that you have to stop trusting appearances. Just because things look okay does not mean that they are strong. Okay. In this, I was going to say era, but just in all times, it is always discernment over what things look like. Because remember, discernment is being able to tell the difference between what it actually is and what looks like it is. Okay. Now, the other thing that you should be doing is positioning yourself, not reacting. Okay. The people who win in a fragile economy are those who move early, they make the necessary adjustments early, they prepare early. Okay. They don't wait until it's, panic time. No, they are looking, they are seeing, and they're like, yeah, while they're reporting great headlines, like I'm still feeling it in my pockets. Let me make some adjustments now. Let me do some preparation now. Okay. Well, if this episode is helping you see things a little bit differently, then it's time to go deeper, right? Because we're celebrating the anniversary of my book this month, Stop Begging God for Money. And this is not a feel good book, okay? This is a wake up and build strategy. This is a wake up and build strategy book. And it is going to help you break financial passivity, which too many of us suffer from. It's going to help you understand true stewardship. It's going to build discipline, and it's going to help you position yourself wisely. So you can get a copy at authorlexijohnson.com. authorlexijohnson.com. Let's see if I can put that in the chat for you guys while I'm learning how to use this new tool. There it is. There it is. Now, I don't know if it looks super big to you all as it looks to me. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, I'm looking here. It doesn't look that big to you all. So you can go to authorlexijohnson.com, grab a copy of my book, Stop Begging God for Money, so it can guide you in terms of moving early, preparing early, making the necessary adjustments early. Okay. So that is authorlexijohnson.com. All right. Well, I hope that you all have enjoyed today's episode. Listen, the economy is not collapsing, but it is fragile. Okay. And fragile systems require awareness, discipline, preparation, right? Don't wait for things to break, man. Too many of us do that. Too many of us do that. Wait for things to break. And then it's too late, right? Start building before all of that. Okay. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Radical Godly Stewardship Podcast. I am Dr. Lexi Johnson, reminding you to produce, multiply, and dominate. All right. No outro today until I learn how to actually make it show. All right. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time. We'll be back to our regular schedule next week, Thursday at 12:30 Eastern. All right. God bless.